Hey everybody, and welcome to the live show. I'm glad that you're with me. I just wanted to say hello and let you know that I think I'm going to move the live chat here on YouTube to probably Sundays, because I travel a lot, and you know, it's not always convenient in the middle of the week to do you know, the live chat on a Monday. So I might move it to Sunday. There's certainly lots of travel coming up. I'm going this week to Quebec. I'm flying into Montreal on Tuesday, going up to Mont-Tremblant to a place called Macaglis, where you get a chance to drive the Porsche cars on an ice circuit. It's called Camp for Canada, and it's open to people who maybe have a Porsche or want to have a Porsche and want to experience what it's like to drive like 911s and Boxsters and Caymans on the ice. So that's a lot of fun. The following week, I'm flying all the way to South Africa to drive the new Audi A7. And then the week after that, I'm going back to Quebec to do another winter program, but this time with Volkswagen, to show off their 4Motion. That's their all-wheel drive system in the Tiguan and I believe the Atlas. So that's what's going to be going on. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. We're getting questions coming in. Sir Can says, hey Zach, quick question. If you have any idea on how much it will be for the Jeep Wrangler 2-liter turbo or the 3-liter diesel, where the 3.6-liter Pentastar is going to be sold along with the 2-liter turbo out of the gate. The 3-liter diesel will not be until 2019. So maybe this fall or maybe a year from now we'll get the 3-liter diesel. If I was going to buy a Jeep Wrangler, that's the engine I would choose, because the number one thing you want with an off-road capable vehicle is a lot of that low-end torque, and a diesel would be perfect for that. The Wranglers are being produced now. I don't have the pricing on me right now, but I'm sure if it's not on the FCA or the Jeep website, keep going back there regularly, because they are going to be arriving in dealers anytime now. Some people are saying hello back. Impact by Eclipse says, thoughts on why many car companies are only implementing Apple CarPlay and not Android Auto, like BMW and now Toyota. That was the big news. I did a bunch of question and answers with the presidents and vice presidents of the major car companies. I got the president of General Motors Canada on there. I got the president of Ford Motor Company Canada. I got the vice president of Toyota. I was not able to get Reed Bigland from FCA Canada on. I asked several times and he wasn't available for interviews, and he's always done my interviews in the past. But I think the one nugget we got, other than the Avalon being launched at the Detroit show, is the fact that Toyota is finally relenting and putting Apple CarPlay into their head units. A lot of the battle between the different OEMs and the different in-dash operating systems like Apple or Android is the battle over data, because this is a mobile device that's traveling in your car, and these companies are collecting data, especially Google. And if you're a Google user, an Android user like me, you know that Google knows everything that you're doing. It suggests things for you. It knows when I have a flight, even though I haven't told Google. It's reading my emails, I guess. I don't know how, but I think that's the big issue. But if there's enough pressure, and here's the eye-opener for a lot of people, is Android has about 80% market share. Apple is strong in North America, but outside of North America, Android is the clear winner, and so eventually they're going to have to relent. So somebody else following up on that, 10 Man says, like the look of the Acura RDX, what are your initial impressions? So this is a video that I did, I did a lot of quick little 1-minute, 2-minute videos from the Detroit Auto Show, and the RDX certainly looks pretty good. And they've gone exactly what I thought they were going to do. I predicted it before the auto show. It's going to be a turbocharged engine. It's going to be a multi-gear transmission. I think it's 10-speed. It's got a much more advanced looking interior. They are really trying to differentiate it between the CR-V and the RDX, where the current models are basically built off the same platform. The current RDX is built off the previous CR-V, but you get the idea. With a V6 engine and a 6-speed automatic, now they're trying to push them away and they're separating them. And they said basically from the A-pillar, that's the windshield back, the RDX is a unique vehicle from the CRV. It's going to have super handling all-wheel drive introduced back in again, where before it had a sort of a lightweight all-wheel drive system. They're wanting it to be the performance driver's utility vehicle. So the proof is obviously in the pudding. We'll have to wait and see, but it looks definitely like a much improved vehicle. I am not a big fan of Honda and Acura's, 8, 9, and 10-speed transmissions. We'll have to see if they can improve it with that. Brian Careless says, hey, great show. Are you planning to come to the North American International Auto Show? I am not probably going to the North American International Auto Show because it's my son's birthday and I'll be here. So I would probably be there, but I got to be here for that. Dag says, hey, Zach, which car is the best for long ride, a manual or an automatic? I answered this before. I'm not sure if you heard. On a long road trip, it doesn't really matter that much, because once you go through the gears and you get on the highway, say you're doing anywhere from 80 to 120 kilometers an hour, for the most part, you're going to be in top gear. You leave it there. Cruise control still works. So for a long road trip, a manual or an automatic, it really doesn't matter, because if you're doing hour after hour of highway driving, you're basically leaving it in one gear. So it wouldn't bother me either way. Raleigh D says, hi, Zach. I've tried asking you a few times to ask which car to buy on your live chat platform, but no luck. Anyway, love your channel. Well, Raleigh D, go for it. Get them in there. Steven says, hi from Campbell River. I'm sure it's raining there too. We have had a deluge of rain here in Vancouver on the West Coast, all the way up and down the West Coast. We're getting all kinds of big storms, and we're getting one tonight. So yeah, it's been, and we're waiting for the sunshine to come back. Any idea on the Audi Q3 release date? I don't know anything about that. I apologize. My thing is moving around. I'll try and get back to it here. Interesting in getting a Volvo XC40. What's your thought in general? This was from Roy Park. I was invited to go to California to drive the XC40. But did I say Q40? The XC40. But I'll have to wait until I drive it. I think it won the North American, was the XC60 or the XC90? Or the XC40. I think it was the XC61 North American Utility of the Year at the North American International Auto Show. Volvo is doing a lot right. What I don't like about the new Volvo cars is the head unit, that iPad-looking thing. The more I use it, the more I'm not loving it, and it's kind of buggy. And every single Volvo that I've had a chance to drive, I got one or two from the dealer, I've gotten them from Volvo Canada, has had some kind of glitch with it. Something very small, but it kind of in the back of my head, and a lot of it centers around electronics, but I have to wait and see till I get the vehicle, and I will get a chance to drive it. I think it's going to drive great, and Volvo certainly is on a trajectory that's moving up. They're doing a lot of things right. Dream Cruiser asks, GTI or Civic Si? Both are excellent cars. One obviously is a hatchback. One is either a sedan or a coupe. That is one major hurdle you're going to have to figure out all on your own. If you like a hatchback, it's easy, get the GTI. If you like a coupe or a sedan, then the Si. They're both fantastic choices. The Si is only available with a manual transmission. The GTI gets the dual clutch. It's cool. Yesterday I was or was it Friday? I was at the chiropractor and I was walking across the street, and this bright red GTI comes by, and I'm like, that's a good looking car. And this little old gray hair woman is behind the wheel, and I think to myself, I almost guarantee you she's German. If she looked like she was 75 or 80 years old and she's driving a GTI. My personal, the Si is fantastic. I really was impressed with it. And Honda's doing great stuff with the Civic line. The GTI is like a diamond. They just keep polishing. They just keep making better and better. I would be happy with either. So here's my challenge to you. You drive them, then you come back on the live chat and tell us what you think. See what you think. Ryan says, will Volkswagen ever bring a diesel back to Canada? I highly doubt it. If I was a betting man, I would say no. The Volkswagen Group has invested tens of billions of euros in the electrification of their fleet. You're seeing that on the Porsche side with the e-hybrids, that they've made their most powerful cars. You're seeing it with Audi. They're doing mild hybrids on all of their new gasoline and diesel engines moving forward, the new 48-volt system that they have in their cars. Volkswagen is going to be introducing more electric vehicles. They have the e-Golf and they have the ID cars that are coming within the next 28 to 48 months. So I don't think so. I think that, you know, there is no appetite for that. And it's too bad because there's certain vehicles, for example, the Tiguan on the Atlas could certainly use diesels. They're fantastic. This week, my wife and I were driving, mostly her review is up, it's doing quite well, of the Discovery, the Land Rover Discovery with the 3-liter diesel, 443 foot-pounds of torque. It is fantastic with the diesel. Big SUVs really could use 3-liter diesels, so it's a shame, but I don't think it's going to happen. Ali says, congrats on 80,000 K. That's in reference to the channel getting 80,000 subscribers. And I don't know what's been happening over there at Google. Probably just over a year ago, Google changes its algorithm, and it seems to me that it happens at the end of a calendar year, the beginning of a new calendar year, somewhere in November, December, January, somewhere in there. Because last year they changed their algorithm, and it severely affected a lot of channels. We're not getting the audience that we were expecting because the trajectory was like this, and then it kind of really took a dip. Well, they seem to have changed it again, and now it's gone way up. So I'm benefiting from that. I haven't changed really anything I'm doing, but thanks for noticing that. When you hit 100,000 subscribers, those that are not aware, you get a Chrome play button. So hopefully within this calendar year, I'll get that, and we'll unwrap it here together on the live show. But yeah, the channel's doing quite well and seem to be getting a lot of acknowledgement from Canadians, even though we have a worldwide audience, but it's great that you notice that. Madurko says, after 3-year lease ends, what is the best financial option if you want to keep the car? Release, finance, buy outright. Thanks. Well, it really comes down to your personal situation. You need to sit down with the person in the business office at the dealer and see what your options are. One of the great things about leasing, a lot of people aren't aware, is you don't own the car. Say it's Honda Finance or Volkswagen Credit or Ford Finance or whoever it is you're leasing from. They own the car, you're the leasee. So when that 3-year term is up, if you buy the car, you are actually buying a used car from them. So it qualifies for the certified pre-owned warranty, which means you can extend the warranty with some cars from 3 years to 6 years or even longer and do it through the manufacturer. So that's one advantage. But you really need to sit down and see, like, I don't know what the car is. Is it a $10,000 buyout? Is it a $30,000 buyout? It really comes down to your budget. If it's a bigger buyout, then sometimes releasing it might not be a bad way to go, or financing it. If you have the money, then buy it out altogether. Or if it's not that big an amount, say it's $10,000 or $12,000, if you have a line of credit, it might be better just to pay it off from the finance arm and pay yourself back. One of the problems with underwriting your own car is that sometimes you just pay the minimum amount and you never really pay off the principal, which can be deadly. So really think about what it is. Mike C says, how long, hi Zach, long time viewer, my wife needs a new commuter car within the next year or so. Do you recommend a 2018 RDX on blowout this summer, or wait till the new Forester? Safety is a priority for us. Well, one of the things about the RDX, this was last year, was their advanced safety features were not available on a lot of the trims, but now they've improved that. The RDX, here's the question I would have back to you, is how long do you want to keep the car? If you're a long-term owner, like you keep the car 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then the current model blowout RDX would be a wonderful choice. V6 engine, I've talked about this endlessly here on the channel. V6 engine, 6-speed automatic transmission. I mean, it's going to drive and drive and drive and be bulletproof. My brother-in-law's mother-in-law, does that make sense? My brother-in-law's mother-in-law needed a new utility. She had a Honda Accord for 15 years, so I knew right away that she buys her vehicles, keeps them for a long period of time. I put her into an RDX and she absolutely loves it, and I know that it's going to deliver the goods year after year. So the Forester is going to be great. It's not going to be a totally new product. It's going to be a sort of mid-cycle refresh, but that's definitely one to consider. Stand by. When I get a chance to drive it, I'll let you know. Mario Dalla Riva says, hey Zach, after watching you and Andrea review the Land Rover, I thought you two could go by the handle Hot and Sour. That's good. I'm going to tell her that. So if you don't know, Brian Chow is from Everyday Reviews, and I travel a lot together. And he's one of the cameramen for Driving Television, and we do some, two of us talking in the car, and we call it Sweet and Sour. And so, yeah, I think I like that, hot and sour. I might go. I'll tell her about that. I think it's very funny. Hey Zach, what's your opinion on the Nissan Maxima, the new edgy looking one, driving dynamics? I have a confession to make. I haven't driven it. And I got to tell you, one of the reasons why I haven't driven it is because it's such low volume. So few people buy them that it comes down to, well, am I going to drive a car that a lot of people are going to buy, or going to drive a car that not very many people are going to buy? And it seems kind of callous, but the one thing I always say, there's only 52 weeks in the year. There's more than 52 new cars. So it's one of those cars I should get around to. Somebody else emailed and asked me, what do you think about the Ford Fusion? And to be honest, I haven't driven the Ford Fusion in a couple of years. It's one of those cars I got to get around to. But when you look at the list of cars available to drive, and I mean, the obvious ones jump out because those are the ones more people are buying, and people are moving away from sedans to SUVs. So point taken, I'll see if I can find a Maxima to drive. If you had a choice of a family sedan between BMW, Audi, or Benz, which one would you buy? Which model? I think in the order it goes now, it would be Audi A4, number one, C-Class, number two, and BMW 3 Series, a distant third, only because the 3 Series is the oldest of the bunch, the A4 is the newest of the bunch, and the Mercedes C-Class is sort of in the middle there. And I think the interior of the Audi and the Mercedes-Benz are ahead of BMW. Not when it comes to materials, just the interface and the way it works. I think they have better products, and that I've talked about it endlessly. The 2-liter turbo, 252 horsepower A4 is such a nice car to drive because the car is so light and nimble, and you can really get a lot out of that engine. Intaster Khan says, hey, recently bought an Accord 1.5 liter Touring, so that's the brand new one. I'm having issues with the heads-up display. After 2 months today, it's not displaying compass, navigation, any information regarding this issue. No, you need to go back to the dealer and find out from them. So it might be a setup issue. You might want to check. Here's the least read book in the world, the owner's manual. So you might want to do yourself a favor and look in the owner's manual. Go to a Honda chat room, look up what other Honda owners are finding out, do a YouTube search and see if somebody has had this issue. Forums are a great way to find out information, but the owner's manual is the way to go, and you have no success there. I'm not the guy to ask. Go back to your dealer. Brand new car, it's under warranty, get it looked at. And Minha Ha, hope I got that right. Hi from Montreal. What do you think about the new Nissan Kicks? Because my sister wants it. I have no real opinion of the Kicks one way or the other. To me, the Nissan Kicks is the new really small utility. So they have the Rogue, now they have the Qashqai, and they're bringing in an even smaller one. It looks like a big Micra, if that makes sense. A big Mini, a big Micra. So it looks like the Micra, but like a small SUV. I think it's going to drive like all of the other Nissan products. It's going to have a CVT, a 4-cylinder engine. Nothing exciting to drive, but it'll do the job, and they're going to sell. So I have to wait until I drive it, but it's kind of cute. I can see why your sister would like it, but there's going to be more and more of these even smaller utility vehicles. So yeah, I have to wait until I drive it, but it certainly is cute. Any updates on the new Mazda engine, supercharged or turbocharged combined direct injection? They had a Mazda event last week in California for the new engine technology that's coming out. I wasn't there. There was like 5 or 6 events this past week. I was on 2 of them. And one of the things is I heard from people that they had, it was basically a technical forum. So you went to California, you went to Mazda school for the day, and they had engineers and everybody there. The people that went said it was just so, like, they couldn't figure out what they were talking about. It was so technologically advanced. So until I actually figure out what the new technology actually represents, it's going to be time to figure it out. Same thing with the new Infinity variable compression ratio. There was a ride and drive this week in California for the QX50 with the very first variable compression ratio engine on the planet. Same thing. Figuring how it works and how to explain it to people is going to be the challenge. So I don't have any information for you on that. All I know is that it was technologically complicated. Have you had a chance to drive the Kia Niro? Not yet. Thinking about buying that car. I hear about the PHEV coming later this year. Now, the Niro is the same kind of as the Ioniq. My colleague Brian, same guy from Everyday Reviews, he had the Ioniq. See, when I went to the Ioniq launch, they had the hybrid and they had the electric car, but they didn't have the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which is the extended range hybrid. He has driven it. He had it a couple weeks ago. So if you want to go over to Everyday Reviews, I'm not sure if he's edited it yet, but it is coming out. He had fantastic things to say about it. So this is the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, the best-selling electrified utility vehicle in the world. One of the reasons is because it's one of the first to market. Excuse me. It's been for sale for about 4 years around the world. First in Asia and then in Europe. And you see these, like I was in Paris for the auto show, and there's loads of them on the road. So there's going to be more of these vehicles available. But what I liked about this vehicle is, yes, you're not going to be driving on electrification all the time, but it does the most to get the best fuel economy that you absolutely can. Even when the battery depletes, it uses regen braking and tries to revert back to electricity as often as it can. So these vehicles they're more expensive. And what I said at the end of this review holds true. I said you need to spend money to save money. And for some people, the math doesn't make sense. If this vehicle is $5,000, the base model is $5,000 more than the most expensive gasoline version, and if you go for the fully loaded version, it's how many? It's $13,000 more. $13,000. Well, how long are you going to have to drive that thing to save $13,000? Could be 10 years. So you really got to do the math and figure out, like, you know, gas in relative terms is cheaper. You can buy a liter of water at the gas station. It's more expensive than the liter of fuel. Buy a bottle of water, it's $2.99. It's $1.45 at the pump. So, you know, yes, it's great that people are interested in the plug-in hybrids, but it's expensive. So how long is it going to take to get your money back? And because these have smaller batteries, the rebates are much smaller. For example, a full electric in the province of Ontario is $14,000. This one you get $9,500. This vehicle in BC is $2,000 rebate. If you get a full electric, it's $5,000. So there again, it takes longer to recoup your money. Robert says, why do you think the Lexus IS350 is so much slower than the German counterparts? It's just an old car. It's been around for a long time. You know, I was really hoping when I was at the Detroit show, and I was there as a guest of Toyota. Different car companies fly in different people. So there was a bunch of different car companies that had taken guests to the Detroit show. You know, and I did the interview with the vice president there of Toyota, and it brought up things like the new trucks, like the Tundra, the 4Runner, the Sequoia. Like, these are really old products. On the Lexus side, the IS is kind of old. So there's definitely some work to do from Toyota and Lexus to get some new products in the market, and the IS is one of them. And I think that's just what it is. I mean, you look at the German manufacturers, they spend so much development on engine technologies to get the most out of them, and Toyota's got an older engine. Now, granted, they're the first ones to have the direct injection and the port injection. That was an advancement from Lexus, but yeah, that's quite a while ago now. Rolly says, bought a Cadillac XT5, loving it. Was confused between the I was confused between the X3 and the XT5, but price caught me. Got a deal. Paid 41 tax in for the luxury version. My question: depreciating on this vehicle 4 to 5 years. Well, here's the thing: the Cadillac is going to depreciate faster, in my opinion, than the X3. And you know, don't take my word for it. Go to CanadianBlackBook.com. and go to their future value calculator. And because they're a valuation company, that's all they do is valuate the cost of vehicles in the used market, and they project how they're going to hold up. And they actually help with leasing companies to figure this out. You can see what they project it to be after 4 or 5 years. So you can go and look for yourself, CanadianBlackBook.com. 1775, hi from Science World. I guess somebody's on their break. Any chance of seeing dash cams actually built into new vehicles in the near future? I don't understand why they don't do this. Like I had the Cadillac ATS-V that has a camera in behind the rear mirror, and Corvette has it embedded into the car as well. They use it for their track app. You can drive around the track and you can record your lap times and all that kind of stuff. But the cameras are there. Why I don't understand why you can't just put an SD card in the dash and it's always buffering, you know, that 8 or 16 gigs, and when it goes back and records over top when it's full, and you always have everything recorded. I don't understand why, because it would be your personal choice as the owner to activate it. For example, Cadillac and Corvette, they have it in there. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. But I don't understand that. I think it would be a great thing to have. What do you think of the new Kia Forte? Well, they unveiled it in Detroit. Other than that, I have to wait until I drive it, so it's a bit early to talk about that. This is the question Jordan's asking. What do you think about the Mazda Skyactiv X? That was the program I just mentioned earlier. Apparently technically complicated, so I'll have to get the debrief on how it works and let you know. What's the date you're coming to the Canadian Auto Show in February? Well, press day is the 15th. And if I was going to go to the Canadian International Auto Show, which should be really called the Toronto Auto Show, because I don't think anybody from Saskatchewan's going there for the weekend, that would be the day I'd be there for the 15th. That's media day, like every other big show. The first day is just open for the press. But I don't think I'm going to be going this year to the Toronto International or Canadian Auto Show, unfortunately. But if I was there, it would be on the 15th. VJ says, can we expect a new production car model from Lexus? Almost all of their vehicles are old except the LS. I agree with you. I think that's definitely something that needs to be addressed. They're focusing on SUVs, and rightfully so. That's what sells. But yeah, I think some of their passenger cars are getting pretty long in the tooth. What's your favorite 7-8 passenger SUV for a family of 5? Family of 5. I think if you want pure space, Atlas, without question, the biggest. The Ford Flex is in there as well, and the Ford Flex is going to be discontinued. You might be able to get a deal on a Ford Flex. It's a very roomy vehicle on the inside, and also it is available with a bunch of different engines. It's actually a very nice product to drive. So those two are the biggest. I think the best all-rounder, and I did a review of it recently, is the Toyota Highlander. I think that's a good one. Fraser Castle says, are you planning on reviewing the RS3 sedan soon? I would love to. They don't have one available to drive. I have asked and asked and asked. I will ask again. I'm going on the Audi A7 program, as I mentioned, in a couple of weeks, so I will ask again, but no RS5 here to drive. Apparently there's one in Toronto. Derek says, what's your views on a daily driver for a city of Toronto? I drive around 25,000 kilometers per year, and the most I have driven in my current car was to Niagara Falls and Blue Mountain. Would you say leasing EVs? 25,000 kilometers a year is kind of on the higher end. And an EV, if you're not going, like you're saying, the farthest you go is to Niagara Falls or Blue Mountain, yeah, so it sounds to me like you're looking for a car that you can drive every day. You're obviously doing a lot of shorter trips, and you're looking to save some money. So yeah, I don't know your exact situation. I mean, how far are you leaving the house before you come back? Like, if you're doing 25,000 kilometers a year and you're in the metro or the GTA, are you driving a lot, and are you going to have a chance to plug it in again? So I need to know more about your situation. But one of the things that people who drive a lot do is often overbuy their car. If you're just using a car as a tool to drive and get the most out of it, then sometimes just buying a small, efficient, compact car for $20,000, for example, like a Civic, is going to be a great choice. Same thing again. You know, you buy a Civic for $20,000, you're going to buy an EV for $40,000 to $50,000. Well, are you going to save that much money? A car like a Honda Civic, especially in the winter with a good set of winter tires, is going to do exactly what you want and will be comfortable and give you 25,000 kilometers of great driving every single year. So it comes down to, like, a lot of people they try to spend money to save money, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Chow Young says, just back, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat here. Just back from the Montreal show, I didn't see the Mercedes G-Class as well as the GT 500. Well, those like the G-Class for sure was just debuted earlier in the week at the Detroit show. So that was a worldwide debut. So they wouldn't have that available for the cavalcade to go on different auto shows. So that's the reason why. As for the GT 500, I don't know. The GT 500, I don't think is being officially announced yet, the next Shelby GT 500. They showed the Bullet, if that's the car you're thinking of in Detroit, but right at the bottom, and see if I can get to you. Hey Zach, this is from Ryan. What do you think of the new Jetta shown in Detroit? Well, a couple of things. It's sort of edgier looking. It's more stylish looking. I'm not too sold on the gap between the wheel and the body. And I was there doing the video, and then Thomas from Volkswagen says, by the way, it doesn't have independent rear suspension, which is kind of puzzling to me, because the Jetta, the one that's available now, when it first came, I think it was 09 or something like that, they brought the larger Jetta out that was less expensive, and a lot of people complained because it was decontented, had a harder dash, and it had independent rear suspension, had drum brakes in the back. And then over the years, Volkswagen remedied all that. They put the soft touch dash in, they put disc brakes all around, they went to an independent rear suspension. So here we are with the next generation Jetta, and they're going back to a trailing arm, solid axle in the back, and I don't understand why. Now, Thomas said to me, he has driven it, I haven't driven it, and he says this is a new, you know, a new solid axle in the back, and they think it's just as good. Well, the proof will be, once again, when I get a chance to drive it, but it seems on first blush that it looks like a step backwards. The proof is always when you drive it. The rest of the car I thought was great. I think the styling is handsome. It's more North American looking. The interior, the dash looks fantastic. It's big. It's got a big trunk. It's got all the Jetta-ness that we've come to expect on size. But yeah, the wheel gap was one thing for me, and then the independent suspension. But the rest of it looked good. So let's wait until I get a chance to drive it. Stephen Bradley says, so I hear Toyota will roll out a new Tundra. I didn't get that at all. As I mentioned, I interviewed the vice president of Toyota Canada, and I asked about the Tundra, and unless he's just stonewalling me, I don't hear anything in the works, but we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, some of these products from Toyota are getting old now. Tundra is one of them. Sequoia is built on the Tundra. That's another. 4Runner has a 5-speed automatic. Like, come on, we need to get new stuff here. I will miss you next Sunday because it's Super Bowl. Well, okay, I won't do it next Sunday, but I am traveling on the Monday, so I'm not sure what I'll do, but yeah, next Sunday, Super Bowl. Will Ford give you a chance to drive the Mustang Bullet? I sure hope so. In the past, Ford has put on their high-performance cars for us to drive. They had the Boss, they had the GT350. I was one of the first guys to drive the GT350 when it came out. I had chassis number like 34 or something like that. I don't know why, but we seemed to get the press car here on the West Coast early, and I did the video, and it went crazy because I was one of the first to get it. But Ford does a good job of letting us drive those cars, so I'm hoping we will. Spartan Bike says, is the new X3 the best in class? Haven't had a chance to drive it yet. I'm not sure if it's in the fleet here in BC, but I will get a chance to drive it. One of the things that I mentioned here in the past, BMW, in my opinion, does a horrible job with auto journalists like myself in Canada of inviting them to drive their cars in advance. So I will go on many trips with other brands. Mercedes-Benz, with Audi, and with Porsche. I had an opportunity to drive many of those cars from those brands, and I get a chance to drive the cars months, sometimes a year in advance before the car comes to market. So when you ask me a question from those brands, I have answers for you. I have driven them. I'm driving the Audi A7 in a few weeks, long before it's going to be available here. I drove the Porsche Cayenne. It won't be here until September, but I drove it 3 months ago already. BMW, thumbs down with their, you know, I don't know why, they just don't want to invite me or a majority of auto journalists to drive their cars in advance, and they're doing themselves a disservice. And you see it in the numbers. I'm not saying it's all because of this, but Audi this year will probably pass BMW with sales. They're within 1,000 cars annually of BMW. Nana says, I love watching your videos, appreciate your work. I have a question. I'm considering a 15 or newer Mercedes-Benz C-Class, C400, C450, or a 43, or a BMW 435 Xi. Any feedback? Well, the Mercedes-Benz 450, 43, they're all kind of the same thing. They changed their naming configuration. It was really confusing for a couple of years. The first C-Class I got a chance to drive was the 450, then they changed it to the 43. Yeah, so it's a bit confusing. The BMW 435, I guess that's the Grand Coupe, the hatchback version, is a really nice car. I think that's one of the best engines that's been made in the last 20 years, is that inline 6-cylinder, 300 horsepower. It originally debuted in the 335 and has been used extensively through the BMW lineup. That, in my opinion, is one of the best engines you can buy, period. So that is definitely a car to look at. So my advice to you is have a look and see what you can find. Now, the 6-cylinder in the Mercedes C-Class is a gem as well. So there's no real bad choice there, if you ask me. Ryan says, used CRV or used RDX? I realize they use the same underpinnings. Well, it comes down to fuel economy. If you want a 4-cylinder and maybe a CVT that's better on gas, go get the Honda. If you want a V6 with a 6-speed automatic that's going to use more fuel but drive in a much different way, have much more performance and be much quicker and more rewarding to drive, then the RDX is the one to get. Gordon Freeman says, still Toyota makes the most reliable cars in the world. Well, that is absolutely true. And one of the reasons why Toyota does make such reliable cars is they don't often take big chances with their products. They refine technology. They let others lead the way often, and then they refine their in-house technology. For example, the Accord has gone to a 1.5 liter turbo, where over at Toyota they still have a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. Granted, it's a new one, but it's just basically a refined version. They've gone from a 6-speed automatic to an 8-speed automatic. They haven't gone to a CVT, and you're going to see that technology spill over into the next RAV4. So they just continue to evolve their technology. They don't make massive changes. For example, their first turbo 4-cylinder was in the Lexus NX, which has only been out for 4 years. And other brands have had turbo 4-cylinders for over a decade. So they don't take big chances with new technology. They perfect existing technology, and one of the reasons why they're so successful when it comes to reliability. Basler says, I watch your TV show and sometimes watch on YouTube for a long time. Why Toyota make ugly car now? Don't like the front grills of Toyota and Lexus, and back too. Well, it's funny. I was giving them a jab in Detroit. You know, I was a guest, as I mentioned, of Toyota, and I said to them, how big can you make your grills? Like, you know, so Toyota and Lexus were basically vilified for having vanilla and beige cars, you know, nothing exciting. Well, they took this as an affront. Well, we're going to make exciting cars. So they come out with this edgy Camry. The new Avalon's got this big, edgy, open-mouth grille. Their Lexus cars, the grills get bigger and bigger and bigger, like that Lexus LX. It looks like the front of a train. It's like they're overcompensating. Well, we're not boring and we're not vanilla. We're not beige. Look how big our grills are. Well, sometimes you just got to find a design element and like make it better. You look at Audi. Audi were the ones that started the whole big grille craze. I guess along with Chrysler, with the Chrysler 300. Car was debuted in 2006. You know, the big oversized grille. Audi went to the big grills, and now they started to pare them down again. So it's like they're overcompensating for the fact that they were called boring and stodgy. I agree with you. I think some of their cars are really quite handsome, but some of them they're trying too hard. And like you look at that new Camry, and then you look at the new Accord. Now, some people don't like the fastback look of the Accord, but I think it's just a better looking car in my opinion. Nicholas says, best cars for first drivers, most reliable, affordable. Get a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla. You'll never go wrong. Chevy Traverse or Honda Odyssey, both front-wheel drive. Nothing beats a minivan. Everybody wants a utility. Everybody wants a utility. Actually, one of my son's friends is over, and they had a Honda Odyssey, and then mom, of course, doesn't want to be seen driving a minivan, and she says, I want to get a Honda Pilot. Gets a fully loaded Honda Pilot. Well, the son who's here, who's now, you know, 5'10", says the minivan was more comfortable, easier to get in and out of, which is absolutely true. If you have a family and you're moving people around and you want the absolute ease of use and comfort, nothing, I'm telling you, nothing is better than a minivan. But people don't want to be seen in them, so they go to utilities. So that might be the battle in your house. Sometimes, you know, a lot of, well, I know this for a fact, majority of decisions are made or influenced by women, and if a woman doesn't want to be seen as a soccer mom driving a minivan, you're getting a utility. MC Spectre says, hey Zach, my Jag XFS always in the garage, thinking of a Volvo V90. How's the driving reliability? Always a BMW guy, never owned Volvo. Well, if you look, the V90, by the way, I think is fantastic. That is the S90, but the station wagon, and the XV90, that's the sort of the outbacked version, you know, like the way Subaru's been doing it, with the cladding and raised a little bit. I really like the way it drove. But if you look at the quality scores, Volvo is not scoring well, especially on in-dash technology. And I mentioned that earlier with the vehicles I've had a chance to drive. Every one I've had has had a little bit of a glitch here and there. Now that is what you call grandmother research. That's a you know, a survey of one person. But you know, go and drive it. I think it's probably going to be better than your old XFS. But it's a very nice car to drive. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I just think it's too bad that these wagons are just not popular here. You go to Europe and you see them all over the place. MC Spectre says, Volvo V90 or Mercedes-Benz E-Wagon. Where's the most fun? Well, if you can get the AMG E-Wagon, that is the sportiest sport utility on the road, man, period. With the twin-turbo V8, that thing, if I got one, I would take all the badging. It would be the stealthiest, badass E-Class wagon, but that is a nice car. Fun to drive if you're getting the 6-cylinder E-Wagon. Not going to light your life on fire. The Volvo definitely feels lighter on its feet than the Mercedes, but they're both wonderful cars. I think it's cool you're looking at a wagon. I think that's a great choice. A lot of people go right past wagons to utility vehicles, and often the cargo area in the back and the legroom in the back seat is better in many wagons. Jackson Chu, Zach, will you be reviewing the BMW 240 or the Mercedes C43? I have done the 2 Series in the past. I should see if I can get another one, and the C43 is definitely a car I need to get back as well. The Mercedes-Benz C-Class, I've driven many of them over the last 2 years. A lot of them, unfortunately, were the higher performance models or the base model, not the 43, which is a great product. So definitely something to consider getting back. Which 2019 truck do you see being the biggest competitor in the segment dominated by the Ford F-150? Well, this Detroit Auto Show was all about the trucks. Ford officially announced just a couple of days before the Detroit show the not the EcoDiesel, I'm sure that's Ram, the EcoBoost diesel, the 3-liter diesel. And then you have Chevy unveiled the Silverado, the all-new Silverado, and it too will have a diesel engine. And Ram came out with the all-new 1500 Ram, and it's going to have a diesel available along with the Pentastar and the Hemi, which has a mild hybrid system. So basically it uses the alternator. So the alternator spins to off the engine to create electricity, to power the electrical systems in the car, but you can also use it as a power source, and that belt spins and helps crank the engine over under acceleration, and they're going to have that with the Ram trucks. So if you look historically, it's going to be F-150, Chevy, or the GMC, or the GM trucks, GMC and Chevrolet, and then Ram. But that new Ram looks compelling. So I have to drive them all to find out. The Ram launch is coming up in March. I'm hoping to go to that. F-150 with the new diesel is going to be interesting. Mike Gurr just did a review of the F-150 on the channel, so watch that. That's the EcoBoost 3.5 liter, which is a great engine. And the same engine that's in the new Navigator from Lincoln, which was a real surprise. I got to tell you, that interior in the Navigator in that car, I thought was fantastic. So it's going to be interesting to see. Alex Korb, I'm disappointed in Mitsubishi not taking advantage of the auto show to show off their PHEV. I'm not sure if you're talking about Detroit. Detroit had a massive list of car companies that were not there. Mazda, Mitsubishi, Jaguar, Land Rover, Porsche, Tesla, a bunch of car companies are just not going to Detroit anymore. The high-end cars like Lamborghini, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, not there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Detroit show changes. And a lot of times they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're going to the electronics show in Vegas the week before and showing a lot of their new technology there, where it should really be held in Detroit for the auto show. It's still a very important auto show. There were a lot of unveilings and a lot of new products, but a lot of brands weren't there, and they didn't have the PHEV at the Detroit show because Mitsubishi didn't attend. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they market the PHEV here in Canada over the next little while. Should I wait for the next gen Volkswagen Golf Mark 8? I'm planning on buying R model soon for long-term use. Well, the cadence on the Golfs is still about 7 years, so we've still got a few years to go. I think it came out in 15, so yeah, we're still quite a few years before we're going to get an all-new Golf. So yeah, why not get it? Just discovered your channel recently. I'm digging it, considering replacing my 08 M3. I like the V8 manual transmission, usable backseat and trunk. I'm stuck looking at Detroit for that combination. No, I don't think so. Oh, a V8. You want a V8. Here's the thing is, do not sell yourself short. Go and try the BMW 240M. The 240. It's not called the M. The 240. What a fantastic car. Manual transmission, twin turbo 6-cylinder, and it's probably roughly the same size, if only a slightly bit smaller. But the back seat and trunk, yeah, it might be a little bit tight, but you know what? A manual transmission V8 combo, yeah, Mustang would definitely fit that bill, or a Camaro. But you know, go back to BMW and try the BMW 240. One of the best cars on the road, one of the best bangs per buck, absolutely out there. Andrew Barton says, I'm thinking of purchasing an 08 Elantra GT base engine. Do you find the Atkinson cycle engine is lacking low end torque compared to its competitors and other brands? Elantra GT base engine. I don't believe that the Elantra GT has an Atkinson cycle. Atkinson cycle usually is held for hybrid cars. I'm not sure you have that right. I'd have to look it up, but Atkinson cycle definitely suffers from torque. That's one of the things, and that's why they pair it with hybrid systems, because the lack of torque is made up from the electrical system, because electric motors have great torque, and the Atkinson cycle is more efficient than a regular combustion cycle. So I would double check that again. I'm going to go and look that up when I'm done, because I don't think Atkinson cycle seems odd to me. Fried Chicken says, most interesting of the new pickup trucks from your perspective. Well, I didn't get a chance to do a real deep dive on each one of them. I'm actually quite intrigued by the Ram, though. You know, the Chevrolet is great. They're using a composite materials. They're going to use sort of like composite plastics. steel and aluminum for mass reduction. You know, General Motors is doing a great job with their in-dash technology. But that new Ram with the 12-inch screen, it kind of looks like a Tesla on the inside with the big screen. That's really cool looking. And this mild hybridization that they have, and a lot of new kind of cool features. I have to drive them. I can't really say just on the surface, but I think that one kind of seemed really interesting. Have you driven the new Accent yet? No, I haven't driven it yet, but I will get my hands on it. So stay tuned for that. The Fast Lane truck hinted at a Toyota releasing a new Tundra in Chicago. Well, it's funny because I asked the Toyota people if they're going to take any journalists to Chicago for the Chicago show, because it's a truck show, and a lot of they were kind of wondering why so many trucks are being shown in Detroit when Chicago's the truck show. And I said, I'd like to go to that show. I've never been to the Chicago show. And they said, well, we're not sure we're even going to go because I don't think we have anything new to show there. So we're going to have to wait and see. They could have been stonewalling me. I don't know. But the Tundra is getting long. Frank Zhu says, hey, Zach, what do you think of the new Audi A7? Should I wait for the new one or go for a current A7? A lot of discounts. Thanks. You should buy my A7. I have a 2015 TDI. If you want to buy it, let me know. The new A7, I haven't driven it yet. I'm going to drive it in 2 weeks. So wait until I drive it. If it's going to be like any of the new Audi products, it should be lights out fantastic. And it's going to be loaded with all the latest tech. Now, that is a downside as well. If you don't want all of that latest tech, if you want just a great driving car with, you know, good tech, but not all the latest tech, the new A7 is a wonderful car. And some people are not loving the new design language from Audi with the creases on the hood, you know, the S5 and A5, and some people say it looks kind of like Ford. I don't think so. I've seen them in person, but you know, look at the pictures, and in 2 weeks' time, I will have driven the A7, I'll have a video, and I'll let you know what I think. Gordon Freeman says, dash cams are a dealer install option. Yeah, I think, you know, sure, anybody can get a dash cam installed in your car, but why they're not integrated into the car, I don't understand why. Mark says, hey, Zach from Montreal, do you know if the newly redesigned Nissan Micra will be coming to our shores? Now, I asked Nissan about this, getting my car brands mixed up. And one of the things that this current Micra has is a following, especially in the province of Quebec, which is focused more on inexpensive subcompact cars. And one of the worries they have is that the new Micra will be more expensive for them to bring in because it's got more content in it. So they're not going to have that sweet, roughly $10,000 starting price on the current Micra. And also they've invested so heavily in the Micra Cup, which is the, you know, it's its own race series through Ontario and Quebec for the most part. So it's going to be interesting to see if they stick with that heritage product or they bring the new Micra in and they keep them both in the lineup, which car companies have done. But I haven't heard anything exactly. And when I asked the question, I didn't really get a good answer. The one answer I did get is they're worried that it could be too expensive. Jordan says, are you excited about the Mazda 6 getting a turbo 4-cylinder and all-wheel drive? Yeah, I'm excited about it, but the Mazda 6 already is a fantastic car that nobody buys. It's one of the greatest secrets in the auto industry. One of the best cars that nobody buys is the Mazda 6. So they're throwing more at it. Hey, let's put a turbo in there. Let's make it all-wheel drive. Let's compete. And that's great. But is anybody going to buy it? I don't know. So is it exciting? Yes. But the current Mazda 6 is a great car that nobody buys. Gift says, hi, Zach. What do you think of the new Honda Civic? Is it the best compact car, or would you say Elantra or Mazda 3? Out of those three, I think it is. I'm getting the Mazda 3 back in a few weeks, and it's been maybe a year or so since I've driven a Mazda 3. But the Mazda 3 is a great handling car. I still think that the Honda is a better all-round car, more technology, more advanced safety features, all of those sorts of things. And I think of those three cars, the Civic would be my choice. Do you know if there's an American version of the Black Book Future Calculator? I would start with Blue Book, Kelly Blue Book. That's where I would start. I don't know off the top of my head, but that would be where I would start. And there is a Black Book in the US as well, just so you know. Michael Marshall says, Watching you from Toronto, my question is, how do you compare the gasoline version of the Outlander with the CR-V and the RAV4? Well, the Outlander is just that much bigger. It's a little bit bigger, and you can get the third row, which is a major differentiator. And the four-cylinder Outlander, and when they updated it about a year and a half ago and reprogrammed and retuned the CVT, was vastly better. Like the previous model, the four-cylinder with the CVT, I would say run away and go get the V6. And the sales showed that. They sold more V6 than four-cylinder. But when they rejigged the four-cylinder and the CVT in the current model Outlander, I was very impressed with it. And if you watch my PHEV review, I talk about the interior and I say it's not like there's no wow factor there, but it's a good, well-made, well put together interior. It's very simple and clean and very simple to use. So I have no problem recommending it. The RAV4 is the one that does not have a CVT, and I gravitate often towards cars that do not. And that's one of the great things about the current RAV4 is it's got a proven 2.5-liter four-cylinder, a proven 6-speed automatic transmission. Put it this way, my mother-in-law was looking for a new utility vehicle. She's had one now for about 6 weeks, and it's a RAV4. Terry Tan says, what do you think of the Smart for 2 EV? Loads of fun. What a fun little car. Cute little car. Smart has taken it on the chin, though. The sales are just like really bad. And they're getting rid of the gasoline Smarts. They're only going to go to the EV, which makes it sort of sound like it's an EV credit game. So they'll get the Daimler, the parent company Mercedes end of Smart, will get carbon credits for having electrified cars. So for every one EV, they're going to be able to sell how many AMG Mercedes. But it is a fun little car. Max says, what would be your pick? Value and reliability standpoint. BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, Cadillac ATS, Mercedes C. Love your channel. Well, I kind of touched on this earlier. For value, I still think number one in my eye is the A4. I think it's a great car. Number two would be the C-Class. The 3 Series is getting old. The ATS from Cadillac is a fantastic car. It's another car that people aren't buying, but it should be on your list. And the thing is, the residual values on the ATS are not good. So go in with your eyes open. But I would wait until the new 3 Series comes out. But A4 would be top of my list. Alex says hi from Montreal. Donkey Sun says hi from Edmonton. Jordan says, speaking of the new Jetta getting the torsion beam rear suspension, I'm hearing Mazda will be going back to the solid beam in the back of the new Mazda 3. I'm not sure I like the sound of that. I don't like it either. I mean, but once again, you have to drive the cars in order to see what they're like, because, you know, engineering is an amazing thing. Look at the Mustang. It had a solid axle in the back forever until just a few years ago. And those cars, the latest ones, the ones that at the very end, were actually pretty good to drive. So you can work some things around it, but still, independent rear suspension is just superior in my opinion. What do you think of a used BMW 535? Same thing. I'm sure if you're jumping in now or earlier, that inline 6-cylinder, 300 horsepower engine in the BMW line from the 3 Series, used basically throughout everything, is a gem. It's a great car. I have no problem recommending it. Wonderful machine. This comes from Bradley. Good question. Do you always obey the break-in period that is listed in a lot of new car manuals? Just got a new car, don't want to wait 2,200 kilometers to floor it. My advice to you is follow the owner's manual. Yes, owner's manual is the Bible for your car. I get people all the time saying, oh, the dealer called and they said I need to come in for an oil change, or I went to one of those quickie lube places and they said, oh, you got to come in every 5,000 kilometers. Open up the book. Follow what the book says. The guys who designed and engineered your car came up with the maintenance schedule for that car. And the break-in period for your car is important. So unfortunately, it can be tedious not driving to full throttle for a couple of thousand kilometers, but do it. It really is the best thing for your engine. And one of the worst things you can do for a new engine is to drive it long distances at a steady speed. For example, going down the highway, you know, doing 80 kilometers an hour, just, you know, to try and break it in. That's not good for it. You want to vary the speed, you want to vary the RPM, but not go up to maximum RPM. So follow what the book says. Gift says, are hydrogen cars the next big thing? Are you going to drive the Toyota Miura soon? I've driven hybrid hydrogen cars in the past. If they have one available to drive, I will drive it. I saw them where I pick up the press cars for Toyota. They had a couple of sitting there. They were for demonstration use. I think they were going to auto shows. But yes, if I get my hands on one, is it the next big thing? It's still a long, 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 long way away. They're opening up a new hydrogen station here in Vancouver. I heard that soon. So we're a long way from that. Hodder Harris says, thinking of buying a 2015 Buick LaCrosse. What are your thoughts? The best used car deal often will be a Buick. One of the highest ranking cars when it comes to reliability and quality by many different outlets, whether it's Consumer Reports or JD Power. And then they suffer badly from resale value. So you get a car that's well made and has depreciated quickly. If you can find a LaCrosse and you like it, one of the things that General Motors does very well is that they do excellent in-dash communications and technology for their head units. So yeah, I have absolutely zero problem recommending that car. I just looked at the time. I've been going for an hour. So that's a long time to be talking. Thanks to everybody that got their questions in. As I just realized, and someone pointed out, next week is Super Bowl Sunday, so won't be doing the live chat then. Stay tuned to find out when it is back on, but thanks to everybody, and I'll speak to you next.